Hi, I'm Kim Wilson,
And I'm Natasha Marchevka.
and this is Speechless.
Speechless. Speechless.
Welcome to our behind the scenes take on real life in VO, where we share our stories, our resources, and our unsolicited opinions. And we have got a show for you.
Yeah, this is great. I'm so excited. Barbara Hennessy from Tribe Pictures agreed to be on our webcast.
Hello?
Barbara does a lot of casting, and Kim and I really wanted to focus on casting. We're going to do a lot more casting interviews this year to gain insight and knowledge and share it with our audience. So Tribe, I'll just read the little blurb, is
Yeah.
a video production company specializing in business storytelling for corporations, organizations, and academic institutions. And I found Barbara, or Barbara found me, should I say, on Voice 123. So she shares a lot about the pros and cons about being on that platform or doing online casting, and also the do's and don'ts for talent. So you'll want to hear this. And Barbara herself has over 25 years of experience in the TV and film industry, managing all of Tribe's client relationships and production workflow. She knows everything basically there is
Her
to know
stuff.
about casting. Yeah, she knows her stuff. So lots and lots of tips in this show, as we do so often. Anyway, but she's been very generous with her time. So grateful. Have a listen. If you can't make a show or don't want to make notes, please do jump over to our website, speechlessvo.com, and sign up for our email list, because every Monday we'll give you a preview of what the show is, give you all the takeaways in a note,
the resources.
note form, and
Yeah.
the resources and the drink recipes can only be found in those emails. So just saying.
You'll want this week's.
So check out this show.
Hi.
Hi, Barbara. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Barbara,
So
Kim,
nice.
Kim, Barbara.
Nice
Hi,
to
Kim.
meet you. Hi, it is so nice to meet you. Thanks for agreeing to do this with us.
It's fun.
And
You
and-
hope.
I'm not often on this side of the camera. I just want to warn you.
Right. Let's start with sharing our beverages, shall we? We just like to raise a glass and cheers. I'm coming in with my favorite Bengal spice tea. It's everybody's favorite at my house. So cheers to you. Barbara, what did you bring?
Not mine.
I was really on the fence about what to bring, timing wise, but I decided in the end to forego the glass of wine at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and to bring what I usually have here at my desk, which is, I love this mug. It's a hand warming mug.
Oh,
So in the winter, when it's
I love
just
it
so
too.
cold, I warm my hands on my tea. And today I'm having tension tamer tea and with celestial seasonings.
It's
We're
perfect.
both going with celestial seasonings.
Yep.
Shout out to celestial seasonings.
I am having the tension tamer greyhound.
Kim's always got a tension tamer. This version is a greyhound.
Yes, it is pretty
Cheers.
though.
Yum.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yay. Thank you so much for being here, Barbara. It's a pleasure to have someone of your experience
Yeah.
and your sort of the theme of casting in the corporate world, even though you're entertainment, media, corporate, all the things. We have just had last week the head casting for Pandora Radio. So there's a difference in terms of, radio.
Sure.
And then we're also going to have someone that's doing TV, a lot of TV
Right.
and commercial stuff. So for you, I know you did commercial stuff in the past. And so we're going to ask about those things. But I'm just going to start with online casting because I'm super curious. I know that you use online casting. I think that's how we met as well.
Sure.
Voice 123 is an online casting site that I use
Yeah.
frequently in my marketing pie. And I want to know your opinion about online casting. I see that you go back in. I've seen you back in there and on there, and I'm just curious about the whole process for you in terms of building a roster of talent
Mhm.
compared to going to V123? Why do you like it? And why maybe what are the pitfalls for you as a hirer?
Yeah. Okay. So I love Voice 123. I'm a huge fan. My process has sort of evolved over the years since Voice 123 has been around. But now what I do is when we have a script, well, there's a lot of ways that I use it, honestly. I use it for casting when we know what we want. We've got a list of specs from our client or agency, and we know that we're looking, for example, we're looking for a female, age range 35 to 50, American accent, and I can plug in these keywords, search terms. But I also can go back to my favorites, like you and others that have, over the years, we've developed a list of our favorites, right? And we know from experience who has the range that we're looking for and who is the most professional in terms of response time and, helping us out in different ways. But really, so we keep our list of favorites. And so in addition to putting it out to the world of Voice 123, which is how we meet and find new favorites, we can invite our favorites to audition for a particular role. So that's the basic way that we use it as casting. Sometimes what we'll do is if we're struggling with a script that we're still writing, or if we've written a script and our client comes back to us and says, oh, but you have to add this, 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 and this, and we need to prove to them that that's not going to make a nice little piece. That's too much information.
Right.
Sometimes we'll put their script up against ours and then be able to say, see, this is better. Don't you agree? And quite often they're nodding along and saying, oh, now we get it. Because when you hear something, it's so much different. And a lot of times our clients in the corporate arena are coming from a background that's mostly writing for the written word, right?
Okay.
So they'll write things that don't sound like a script. And so sometimes we do that. And then that helps us get to the ultimate script. So it's not, I don't think it's, an abuse of your time. It's very helpful for us.
Yeah.
But, we have used it that way on occasion. Mostly it's for casting, though, when we have a role that we're looking to fill. The other thing I like about it is that when everybody responds, we can go through and highlight, I go through first and highlight the people that I like. And then I can share that with our director who's maybe doing it concurrently, and we can compare notes, and then we can download the voice that we like best, and maybe even sometimes put that against picture if we already have a rough cut or if we've done some sort of rip-o-matic to prove the concept.
Rip-o-matic. I love that.
Rip-o-matic.
Yeah, we don't do that a whole lot because we do a lot of documentary style things. But anyway, that's why I like it. I find it very versatile.
So curious, what do you look for when casting in voiceover talent?
That is, it changes with the project, but the basics. And I did, in preparation for our conversation, I reviewed not only what I look for, but our directors. I talked to a few of our directors and one of our editors.
Wonderful.
Because they all listen, and they all have opinions, and they all will tell me who was really good, and, after recording and then after editing the content. So, so this is what I came back with.
Awesome. I just want to interject and say your directors are top of the line, top notch. I mean, they've directed me on things, and it's the easiest sessions because they're so experienced, like decades of experience.
No,
and it's a pleasure to work and an honor to work with them. So I'm thrilled that you asked them too. What did you all say?
Right. So I think, Natasha, that Vern Oakley, he's actually started the company 35 years ago and has decades of experience. He's also an actor. He was a trained actor before he got into production. So
he knows what he's listening for.
He does. And, he teaches a course at Baruch College in New York City on corporate video.
Oh, cool.
Oh
So
my gosh.
he said, and I thought this was really fun. He said he always puts this question out to his class. They're just beginning to learn, and he'll say, what do you think is the most important quality in voiceover? And people say, oh, acting ability, or they'll say like, a deep voice, or try to describe the tone of voice. But Vern said, just on the very foundation of it, it's a voice that makes you want to listen, a voice that you enjoy listening to, a voice that sounds good to you, right? So that's number one. Because, and we see this when we're going through the casting, if you come across it, unfortunately you do come across actors whose voices just turns you off immediately, you don't need to listen to more than a few seconds, because there are people out there who just have, they might be right for certain roles, but they're not voices that you want to listen to. So that's thing one.
Sure.
Is, that's sort of likability
or they
factor.
could sound like your mother-in-law.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean,
well, that's my
right?
next point.
And so,
that can be as subjective. We always say, don't forget the soundtrack is half the film.
look at your cat.
I can't control this.
Oh my
Try
gosh,
that
it's
night.
so cute.
She pops into most of my meetings.
Okay, what's her
Aw.
name? And then we can move on.
Her name is Piper.
Oh,
I'm really not going to pay attention to her now, because she'll get very, very annoying very fast.
Okay.
Anyway, so was I saying about
objective. It's very objective, you said.
Subjective.
it's subjective?
I mean,
right.
subjective.
So
right.
what we always say is that the soundtrack is half the film, right? So we think a lot about all the effort that goes into collecting the pictures. And frankly, a little less effort goes into collecting the audio elements, but it really, it's half the film. What you're hearing informs what you're seeing and vice versa. So the combination of voice and music is pretty much the soundtrack. And sometimes we do sweetening and sound effects, but that's the soundtrack. So the voice is 50% of the soundtrack, if you will. So, it's super important. Now, what sounds good to me might not sound good to you, or, there's subtleties, of course, when you're doing a casting and you're trying to narrow down a field of maybe 10 of your favorites down to 2 that you're going to recommend to your client. And then, of course, they react to some of that. So everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
And that's why we're called Tribe.
That's cool.
The film isn't made by itself. We're a group of people. And so we really do weigh everybody's opinion to say, I liked this voice because, and, a lot of that has to do with how it sounds. And sometimes it has to do with acting ability, which is the third thing, really. The ability to be able to give subtly different reads. Not everyone has that. The ability to take direction and to understand the script. I think that was my second point, frankly. I skipped over it. But, the second thing is, the ability to make a script sound interesting, to really get what we're talking about and have that come through in the read.
Not just sound pretty, right? Because anyone, it's a skill to sound pretty, but not everyone can interpret the copy.
Right. And be able to
bring meaning to it.
To be able to emphasize the right words. And, sometimes the same sentence can mean different things when you have the emphasis on the wrong words. And so that's acting ability, I think, and a little bit of intelligence, frankly. But we have scripts that we sometimes aren't really that happy with, and we need help interpreting them. And the voiceover actor can help us with that. So,
yes, indeed.
So those are the 3 things.
That's cool, because next week we're doing a show on, it's not just the voice, there's other qualities. You don't have to have a beautiful voice even.
Right.
You have to be able to make the script come to life in a way people want to listen to it. Yeah, totally.
Sure.
You have been in casting for a really long time, doing different things. And you said you were in commercial in the past. And I do want to touch on those things that you sort of shared with us previously about trends. And aside from the fact that COVID has created trends for us, I was
Mhm.
really fascinated with what you shared a little bit with us. Can you share it with our audience?
Sure. Sure. So I did start, I was introduced to casting way back when I was a kid out of college, and I used to be responsible for talent payments, and we were doing commercials. And I would, I started out managing the voiceover sessions, and I would do the paperwork for the actors and submit it to the payment partners. And, you know, um, those days were very, very different, where everybody had to report to the studio, and then you would go into the studio booth and you had your 90-minute session. And if it went a little long, then there was overtime and all that stuff. That was where I started back in the 80s. I'll say late 80s. Um, but now,
so will we.
yeah, so much has changed with the industry and with the technology and equipment becoming more accessible. And now so many people all over the country can participate in this. And that really opens up the field for us to incredibly, because it used to be just you had to live in New York to get chosen, or you had to live in LA. But now we have voiceover artists coming to us from their own home studio all over the country, and even the world, but mostly the country. So in terms of trends, back in the early days of my career, it was very, the voice that you wanted or that was cast was number one, almost always a man. Almost always older and authoritative, and had to have some experience in their voice of God, the announcer. And that sometimes we would get into little comedic things where we would have childlike voices, but mostly it was your typical white bread man. Then I would say maybe around a couple years back, maybe 5 years ago, there was a trend towards this snarky announcer, the one who had a bit of attitude in their voice.
Dennis Leary sort of
area.
Yeah,
A little bit of, side talking, just sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like that.
Sarcastic, wry.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, wry humor. We don't see that so much in corporate world because, we're not trying to be that humorous, and we're usually trying to be, yeah, really, we're not.
Right.
But nowadays the trend is towards authentic, really, from the heart. An accent means you're human, like, it doesn't have to be a typical voice. And that, frankly, when I'm getting back to acting ability, if someone can give us different types of reads, that's huge, because, that's really helpfut. You can have the happy or the more sardonic, you can be flexible. But back to authenticity, really, that's what we talk about a lot, is that our films connect with an audience because they're believable, they're human. They, give an insight into what this company is like, either talking to their employees directly or having their leaders talk to their, any kind of stakeholder. And so authenticity, being real, being believable, being, from the heart is, I think, what really matters now. And the beauty of what I've seen just in the past couple years is more women are being requested in the casting. More women are being chosen. Even when I bring up, because, in the past, say 5-10 years, it would be like, should we cast for women and men? And then you can decide. And they would say, oh, sure, why not? And then we would recommend a handful of women, a handful of men, and 9 times out of 10, they'd pick the man. They just weren't hearing the woman as being that voice that they wanted to associate with their brand or their product or company, whatever. Now, what we're finding is that people are requesting women, not even casting men sometimes. And, or if I suggest, do you want to cast women too? They'll say, oh, I love that idea. Let's just cast women. And,
Oh,
and it's really refreshing, being a woman, but
yeah.
it's also refreshing having seen that trend come,
Yeah.
just maybe 5 years ago, we would suggest, how about a female? And either they'd say no out of the gate, or they'd be open to it. And we'd all agree that the man was the best voice in the end, including myself. It's like you hear it more, I guess. And, you hear it more in storytelling and feature films, or you hear it more on the radio and,
In
what else you're
documentaries.
listening to, and it becomes more normal.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's great, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Great for you ladies,
about
too.
diversity too.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm happy with the people on Voice 123, and you
Yay.
can tell the difference. Like I said, in a few seconds, there's plenty of people that will submit an audition.
Mhm.
There's the ones, I'm going to list my pet peeves now.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
There's the ones who don't follow the directions, like they'll put their demo up there
Not
and
me.
not
I'm
the
just saying,
script.
note. Yes.
Yeah, they're so easy to just go right past, because, and then there's, I don't want to hear mixed music in the background, because then we can't edit it.
Mhm. Great point.
People do that all the time. I don't know why.
Really?
They just like playing
Oh,
with their
that's so
tools.
surprising.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah, and then there's a thing on the interface where you say, do not mix music, and it comes back anyway. So that's just simple reading
Wow.
directions. The other thing is that our corporate videos tend to be like 2 to 3 minutes tops. And sometimes the voiceover portion is just 30 seconds or a minute of that. So we post the script in its entirety. And a lot of people who respond with an audition only record a portion of the script. And I understand why. I really do. I'm sure that there's people out there using those auditions without permission, without payment, which we would never do. But the reason why it's important for us is, like I was explaining, we often will take an audition and put it against a storyboard, or put it in a form that our client can imagine what the video is going to feel like. So if we already have a rough cut, we can put the voice against that. And then we can audition maybe, your choice or our choice, and see who you like better when you see it against the picture. We can't do that if we don't have the whole script. And sometimes people are willing to do it again if we go back to them and say, look, you're our recommended. Could you please, lay down the rest of the script? But sometimes when we're moving super fast, we don't have time to do that. So we just have to move on to somebody else who recorded the whole script.
These are good notes to take.
I don't know. I really can see both sides of the coin. And I know why people only, if it's a 2-minute script, they want to move on to the next audition, just lay down a minute. That should be plenty for you to understand how I can do it. But if you go the extra mile, it'll probably pay off.
Do you ask for them to read the whole script in your audition? Do you ask for it?
Yes, we do. We usually put that in the comments.
So they're not following direction once again.
Right.
Once again.
Right. I find that people are nervous about, and I've done this long enough. Only once has it happened that I found it was actually
Twice for me.
Twice for you. Mine was on CNN. I want to say it was an accident. Yeah, it's very rare. I think, oh, I forgot to let you know that you got the job, and then I forgot to pay you. That's rare.
Yeah.
I really follow my heart and trust that it's not going to. Plus, you're right. If it's too long and you're investing in that audition, then that's a lot of time. But you guys are so quality in terms of a production company that it's worth the effort that you put into it. So,
right. I would never ask for that if we were doing like a 5-minute long thing. It's only on those short videos where we need to kind of prove a point. That we ask for it to be completely, record the whole thing. And then we don't ever not pay. We've had a few occasions where the audition was so good, we wouldn't change a thing. And then we just say, go ahead and bill us. We used your
I love
audition.
that.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Right.
Barbara, you've given us so much great
So much.
information. And
Thank you.
Yes. This is so
You're
valuable for our audience. Thank you. And
You're
we're
welcome.
going to put down resources below, but we also don't want to have a barrage of people calling you. So we'll talk to
Right.
you after we're done about what we can share.
Oh,
But what you've told us about online casting, yay, it solidifies
yeah.
so much of what I share with people and what I believe and beyond. So thank you so very
You're
much.
welcome.
Yay, how fun.
Speechless.